What's going on, Packers fans? Joseph Randolph.
And Brian Maafi.
And welcome to another edition of Packers Draft Room. We're a little behind schedule. Allergy season is upon us, but myself and Brian, we're back in action. We're back on the sidelines reporting the best up-to-date news on the prospects that you love. Today, it's defensive line. And Brian and I are going to make quick work of these guys, to be honest. Brian, why is that?
I mean, it's a good class, but it's just the Packers don't have a huge need there. Kenny's up for contract, but they'll probably extend him. TJ Slayton's up for contract. We'll see with that. But then they also have the two young guys, Wyatt, three young guys, really, Wyatt, Wyatt and Brooks and Wooden. So, it's possible they could grab another guy and carry six guys this year, but, I don't know about that. We'll see.
Yeah, the one word I put on this class is tweener. A lot of these guys just don't really fit the NFL mold that teams are looking for. I'm really questioning if we see a defensive lineman hear his name called on Thursday night. And like Brian said, there's really only one guy, and he's really not even really being threatened, and that's TJ Slayton. As the run stuffing, gap filling guy, even though his contract's coming up, I don't think he feels any anxiety about this class at all. There's not really a guy that does what TJ does. Similar, yes, but what he does at the college level and now at the pro level, I just don't see this defensive tackle class threatening anybody on the Packers roster currently. If the board, says, hey, this guy is the right value at the right time, and when I say board, I'm thinking like late day 3, maybe 5th, 6th, 7th round, then maybe they'll pull the trigger. But if you're hoping for a defensive lineman this year, guys, love the one you're with, and that's the guys that are already on the roster. We're going to get going. We're going to run through them. I don't have even a consensus number one in this class, Brian, but we're going to start off with Clemson's Ruke Orhorhoro. What I like about Ruke, he had almost a perfect 10 RAS. I think it was 9.94. And with that athleticism, to me, he's probably the most complete defensive lineman in this year's class. Has a rush plan, isn't too bad against the run either. Functional strength. Ideal size to a degree. When we're talking about this class, probably one of the more appealing guys as far as from a size and speed perspective. But he's still got a little bit of work to do. Brian, you want to go into on what he's got to work on?
Yeah. He's been one of my favorite defense tackles in this class for a few years, actually. I've been keeping my eye on for a few years, ever since he came in for some injury replacements when Clemson had a bunch of injuries on the D-line. He's still kind of new to football, so he's still got a lot of growth to go. He's a young guy, experience-wise. And so he's got a lot of potential. The way Clemson used him sometimes wasn't great. They kind of use him as a nose tackle sometimes, and that's just not really his game, his skill set. He's more of like a 3-tech, 2-eye type of stuff like that, 4-tech. He can probably even play some 5-tech. But, he's just a really athletic guy who can get after it. He's still developing, like I said, so his technique still needs some work, his hands and placement and that type of stuff. But he showed a lot of pass rush potential. He gets in the backfield and he makes plays in the backfield.
I like him as a 4-eye. I don't know if I really want him on the 5. I'd be happy with him at the 5 if I had to, but I like him from the 4-eye, maybe reducing down to a 3. And like you said, the inexperience shows up on tape, but the athleticism really shows up as well. So, if I had to give somebody a first round grade in this class, Ruke would probably be late first round. Like, honestly, I'm not saying the Packers would draft him at 25, but probably 25th through maybe 35th. is probably his range. And I think we've been saying it, as a common theme in this year's class, the term overdrafted. In a lot of other classes, Ruke is probably a solid day 2 guy. And that's probably where he needs to go. But looking at this class and where the talent starts to drop off very quickly, I could see maybe a couple teams jockeying for position where maybe they come in the back of the first round, trade with the Chiefs and snatch him up, or maybe maneuver, right at the top of Friday on day 2, trying to get his services. But with that inexperience, a full offseason from now, 2025, we could be looking at a Pro Bowl caliber player. It's really just getting that additional tutelage and comfort in an NFL system.
Yep.
Moving forward, we've got Illinois' Jer'Zhan Newton, one of my favorites, just raw, unabated power. Also uses hands as well. Probably a little bit more complete than Ruke, but a little bit, a tad bit undersized. And then because of his talent, he was used in a lot of different ways that probably wouldn't suit him at the NFL level. I think what you'll see with this class in general, for the guys who were actually pretty good, they were used in a lot of different ways that they probably wouldn't be used at the NFL. And then, of course, in the college, you've got way more non-NFL offensive linemen than you do have NFL type offensive linemen. So then that leads to, guys just being thrust where they can have an impact. I did like Jer'Zhan. He had a high grade coming in, but the tape says that he's probably best left probably at the top of day 2. How do you feel about him, Brian?
I'm a little bit higher on him. I think, I agree that he's kind of more complete than Ruke. He's more developed. Of course, he's ready to step in and be a starter and stuff. I think, he should play a somewhat similar role, like a 3-tech type of guy. But he's already a pretty good run defender, even though he's a little bit undersized. And like his arms aren't super long. He's got, like, I think average 32-inch arms, so it's kind of average-ish. But yeah, still, I think even for his size, he's a pretty good run defender. I wouldn't put him on nose or anything like that. But I mean, for a guy who's going to play mostly going to be 3-tech, 4, 2 wide, stuff like that, he's a good run defender, and he gets a lot of pressures. He has over like 90 pressures in the last 2 seasons combined. So he can really penetrate the backfield and cause havoc on the offense.
Yeah, I see him as possibly like I don't know if I want him in an odd front. I think actually a lot of this class are going to be 4-3 sub package type guys, especially average arm length. I really want Newton to be lined up pretty much 1-on-1, and then let him make his hay from there. So you're thinking first round?
Yeah, I think first round. I think he's probably slipped on the boards a little bit, probably because of the foot injury or whatever it was, and that he hasn't been able to work out and stuff like that. But I still think he's a first round pick, probably in early 20s, I would say.
I think the lack of testing. I don't know if maybe there's still a little bit of time. He might be able to squeeze on a private workout. I think for me the lack of testing, I think I got to leave him on day 2. I believe. Well, obviously we have Ruke's testing, so that's what puts Ruke ahead of him for me. But I could see a team, the right even front team, which I guess we are an even front team now at this point. But with 32-inch, I think Brian Gutekunst is out. Brian, I think he's probably out on Newton. Now there was a guy that I think a lot of you guys have been asking about, and that's Mizzou's Darius Robinson. If there was a day 1, day 2 guy that I think the Packers would be interested in, it's probably him. Sets the edge very well for the run. He is a natural run defender. He played a little bit heavier. I think he came to the combine, I think probably at about 280-ish. Right. But I think during the season, it was rumored he played closer to about 310. He's trying to give teams maybe to look at him as possibly like a multi-role edge defender, but I don't think Darius, he didn't test well enough to have that kind of twitch to come off as a 3-4 outside linebacker. Somebody may give him that shot and then say, well, if he can't do it, I've still got a 5 technique that's going to, take care of the run. But as far as I'm concerned, I would probably leave him at that 5 technique. 4-3 defensive end, type player. I wouldn't necessarily say a designated pass rusher from the 3-point stance, but he does offer some pass rush ability, decent tools as far as with his pass rush plan. He's just gotta get a little bit better with Ben. And at this stage of his career, I don't know if he's going to get better, Ben. This may be a what you see is what you get with Darius Robinson. But if the Packers were going to pull the trigger on day 2 for a defensive lineman, I would be happy if it was Darius Robinson. Brian, what's your take?
He actually what he said at the combine was in 2022 season he played at like 305. And he was playing more DT. This past year, he slid up to the edge, and he played closer to 285. That's about what he was at the combine, so 285, 283, something like that. But by his testing, it was not good, really, for an edge rusher. So I think, you're right to an extent, is that he's probably going to be like the 5 tech, or if he goes a 4-3 team, he could be that guy who plays defensive end on rundowns, short edge downs, and then kicks inside on pass downs to rush the passer. Whoever drafts him is probably going to ask him to put a little bit of weight back on, probably get into that 295 range. Because he wasn't great when he was at defensive tackle playing 305, so was just a tiny bit too heavy for his frame and his skill set and stuff like that. But I think probably 295 is probably my ideal weight. I think he'd be actually a great fit for the team like the Steelers, who really still uses like the 5 tech type defensive lineman. But he's still a good run. He's a good run defender, really good run defender. He's developing a little bit as a pass rusher. He had I think it was 6 sacks this past season. They had a decent amount of pressure. So he's showing some pass rush upside, some developmental upside. He is a little bit of an older guy, so the ceiling may not be super high, but he could still be a solid, like I said, 5 tech or guy who kicks inside on pass downs and stuff like that.
He may be one of those football players. He's a football player, and the testing doesn't necessarily give you the inclination of high success, but he may be a guy that you just take a chance on day 2, and he matures into a Pro Bowler. I definitely see that in the tape. It's just a matter of that acclimation to the NFL level leads him to be successful. Moving on down the list, we have a standout from the Senior Bowl, and that's Florida State's Braden Fiske. What I love about Braden is he was asked literally the morning of the Senior Bowl to switch teams, and he just said, hell yeah. And he showed out. He showed out in drills. He showed out in the game. He was constantly resetting the line of scrimmage. I don't want to say necessarily fool's gold for Braden because he might have the shortest arms in this year's class, but he has the most explosive first step. So he wins with that explosiveness, but for longer armed offensive linemen, and the Packers love those long armed offensive linemen teetering on 34-inch arms. He's going to have problems shedding blocks, but if he can just cause enough havoc in that 1.5 seconds when the quarterback is in the pocket going through his progressions, that's really all it takes. It's Braden's job really to just redirect one offensive lineman, or maybe just possibly demand a double team, which he's not necessarily bad at. I wouldn't say he's good at it either, but just to free up that extra rusher to get to the quarterback or stop the run. I have him as a solid second rounder. If he can get that, if he can show that despite the short arms, remember we had a similar issue with Dean Lowry, where he would flash some games and then he would disappear for many others. If he can overcome that obstacle, he's got a long career in the NFL. Brian, what about you?
Yeah, he was an interesting thing because like he kind of came to the combine, and yeah, he had a good Senior Bowl too. But he came to the combine, he kind of blew everybody out of the water with his testing, and there was all this talk all of a sudden about him being a first-round pick and this and that, which I thought was nuts. But yeah, he's really athletic. But like you said, he's got short arms. He's not a huge guy. He was 292 or something like that at the combine, 6'3.5". So not super long, obviously a bit short, but really fast, around like a 4.78. But yeah, he is, how do I say it? He is kind of like what his body type is, what his body type tells you. He's going to be another guy. It's going to be another 3-tech, going to penetrate in the backfield, going to need to go one-on-one. He doesn't deal with double teams at all. Like he gets buried with double teams. He's not going to play nose tackle or 1-tech or anything like that. He's not going to play 5-tech and like that. He's going to basically just be a pure 3-tech. So he's going to basically have to go to a team that runs a 4-3. He wouldn't be a good fit really in a 3-4. And he's going to be mostly probably early on just kind of a sub rusher until he can kind of get at least a little bit better, against the run and stuff like that. But yeah, he can really penetrate, like I said, in the backfield. Just another one of the 3-techs, because we got all these 3-techs in the class. He was a Central Michigan transfer. He had some really good years at Central Michigan. But he kind of didn't really play. He didn't He didn't play all the snaps because they rotated a lot of the guys at FSU. So his counting numbers weren't great. But yeah, like I said, day 2, probably mid-second round, something like that. But like I said, he's just got to go to the right team and the right system to take advantage of his skill set.
I love it. Sub package, goal line situation where it's pretty much get a hat on a hat. He's gonna make a living in the NFL. I don't think I've really, you hate to, take the tradition of schools. I don't know if I've ever seen a bad defensive lineman come out of FSU in quite some time. They typically stick for a little bit. So I'm looking forward to him. I don't think he's going to be a Packer, but, at 31, he's probably definitely not going to be a Packer. At 31, unless he just falls to like the 7th round and Brian Goodwin's is like, well, maybe.
Plus, he also has like 4 guys that can play 3-tech already. So
yeah, we've got 3-tech locked down, to be honest. Outside of TJ, and even TJ can do 3-tech if you need him to. Yeah. We're full with 3-techs. And then moving to another 3-tech, didn't really be a 3-tech in college, is Ohio State's Michael Hall Jr., a highly athletic dude. They used him a lot as a nose tackle at Ohio State, which I might have to ask Coach Half about that one. Granted, Hall was buried in the roster.
I think Hall was there after he left. So.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know why they used him as a 0, but for whatever reason, he was used as a 0. Fought through injuries, so there's some concern there. But highly athletic dude, but he's best as a 3-tech in the NFL. He's going to get swallowed up by interior offensive linemen if he has to, line up on the center. I think I have him at 6'2", Brian. You have him at 6'2"?
6'2" and 6'8", so just a little over 6'2.5".
Yeah, I don't see. I mean, again, TJ Slayton fears nobody in this class, and as a 0-tech, that wouldn't be Michael Hall's best thing. He's going to need some help in the on the interior. So similar athleticism to Fiske that we just covered. He's just get his hat on somebody else's hat, and he should be fine. And hopefully the injuries don't come back to haunt him. I don't think with the injury issues, if the Packers are going to be interested, because I think his best range is probably somewhere late day 2 into late 2nd round into mid 3rd round. I just don't, with the injury history, I don't think that the Packers would be interested. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, again, like if the Packers had a need at 3-tech, I would love to see him in Green Bay, but they have so many 3-techs already. I don't really see a point in them taking him, but I like him a lot. He's really athletic. He's got a really good burst, off the snap and stuff. He's one of the first guys always off the line. He penetrates in the backfield, all that stuff. He's kind of interesting because at the Senior Bowl, he was like 280. So he was like really small. So you're kind of worried about him being able to hold up. And then he showed up at the combine at like 290. So it's like, okay, good. He put on some weight. And he still, he had a really good workout still. And he ran like a 4.75. So, he showed he can put on some weight and he get some bulk on there because that was one of the things he obviously saw in film. A lack of bulk, a lack of strength in the run game, a lack of size, stuff like that. And you could tell he looked like about 280 this past season. But he is similar to Braden Fiske as athletically, but he has 33.5-inch arms. So he has arms a lot longer. So there's more upside there, more potential there as a every down, defense tackle. And then even funnier, more interesting too, is he showed up his pro day at 299. So he's like 300 pounds now. So that's obviously good. I mean, I don't know if he'll play at 299, but still that's good that he's been able to pack on almost 20 pounds, in 5 months or whatever it is, 4 or 5 months. But yeah, he's a penetrator. He's another 3-tech type guy. But he's got more potential, like I said, than more upside, I should say, than Braden Fiske, just because of his arm length and then his age, of course. There's potential he could be a solid run defender, and be, like I said, a full-time pass rusher. No, sorry, not pass rusher, but, full-time defensive tackle, play, every down and stuff like that. But yeah, he's got, like I said, he's got one of the higher upsides of the defensive tackles in this class.
I want to see more from with the 20-pound gain. Again, probably won't be a Packer, a little bit older, injury history, but I'm curious to see if what he showed at Ohio State at 280 will show up at 300. So there is one prospect in this class where size is not a factor, and that is Texas's T'Vondre Sweat. I have him at 6'3" and some change, and we'll probably never know the truth. Some say he was playing at 360. Some were saying he was playing at 340. I'm gonna meet him in the middle and say he played at 350. He was an absolute wrecking ball at Texas, but when you have guys that large, conditioning is always going to be an issue. So he would show out for maybe a quarter and a half, and then it would be a wrap. So at that size, I can't say the Packers are interested. He's going to have to drop down, still show that same functional strength, still show the ability to stuff the run at probably 329, if that. Probably the Packers want him lighter than that. But then what's going to take T'Vondre Sweat probably off of not only the Packers list, but other teams is he just got pulled over for DWI this weekend. So, you're 2 weeks from, the biggest moment of your life, and you're getting in trouble, with the law. And the Packers don't take no stuff. So he's got the weight issue, and now we've got a character issue. I had a day 2 grade on him. I think he's still day 2 with his legal woes that just recently popped up. But I think now T'Vondre Sweat may be looking at comp pick time. How about you, Brian?
Yeah, he's like way outside the Packers thresholds as far as weight for the defensive tackles. He's been as heavy as actually official weight of like 266 or 366, sorry. But he's been reportedly as times as heavy as in the 380s at Texas. So, and that's just not a Packer. They don't like those type of guys that basically are just pure run stuffing nose tackles who don't really offer anything else. Don't offer any athleticism. They can't get down the line. They can't move really. They're just like they're just there. That's just not the Packers. If you showed up at the combine at like maybe 330, under 330, and had a good workout, maybe. But again, like I said, with the weight issues, just his style of play, the DWI, like all that stuff is just is going to push him down, of course, but it just points to just a guy who's and is not going to be a Packer. And, you know, his RAS score was like a 4 point something like that. That's not a Packer at all. You know, unless somehow magically goes undrafted, you know, maybe they would kick the tires. But, you know, like I said, he's doesn't offer much if anything at all as a pass rusher. So yeah, he's just not a Packer. You know, there'll be teams out there that'll like him, 3-4 teams or whatever, or a team that just wants a big giant nose tackle, just sit in the middle and just take up blocks and stuff like that. But he just won't be a Packer.
Yeah. There are you know, I do think that the Packers could get another nose tackle. Yes, Kenny plays nose tackle. Kenny just plays defensive line. But TJ, if you watch TJ, I think you get maximum effort from TJ every game. I'm not going to take away from TJ's effort. I can't. I'm a Gator at heart. But TJ wears out. This we know. I mean, at his size, he wears out. He's going to wear out. That is the name of the game. You got large dudes. Large dudes get tired quickly. So I do think if there was a defensive lineman or a defensive lineman skill set, I think the Packers are in play at 0. Not T'Vondre Sweat by any means, but somebody where TJ can get a spell for like 3-4 plays, then he comes back in, he's fresh, reasonably fresh, and you know he gets back after it. Is that in this class? I don't think so. But, you know, stranger things have happened. But I do think with Half's new scheme, I think that will help TJ stay fresh for longer. So maybe the Packers don't need a 0 technique. But not a whole lot of those guys in this class in general that the Packers would be interested in. But if there was a guy to get called, or a type of guy to get called, rather, I don't know who they might be interested in. It might be a 0 technique guy. But moving on down the line, we've got national champion Chris Jenkins. I don't know if they call him Chris Jenkins Jr., Chris Jenkins II, but if you've been watching NFL football for a while, you might be more acquainted with his dad, who also, I believe, played at Michigan and was a stalwart for the Panthers with Julius Peppers in his heyday. Jenkins might be probably outside of Ruke, maybe probably one of the prototypical defensive linemen in this year's class. I have him at about 6'3". I have him just a hair over 300, and then I've got, I think, 34 and some change arms. If you wanted a NFL type defensive tackle, it's probably going to be Chris Jenkins. As far as like the first dude that's, you know, going to come off the board. He's got a little bit of ways to go as far as development. Well, for as long as Harbaugh's been there, Michigan has had a stout defense. They will probably continue to have a stout defense. So he's got a little bit ways to go as far as work. Needs to work on his pass rush. And I don't know. I think when it comes to defensive linemen, you either got it or you don't when it comes to defeating double teams. Double teams is not Chris Jenkins' forte by any means. But, of course, when you've got a defense that's stacked with talent like Michigan has for the last few years, life isn't as bad. But in a 4-3 even front team like the Packers are transitioning to, Chris Jenkins makes sense. We can coach him up. And I mean, I don't know if his dad will ever make it to the Hall. He'd probably be one of those fringe dudes that maybe might one day just sneak in. But if you remember his dad's playing days, Chris Jenkins was a threat. So the idea of having his dad come through 1265 every so often and maybe, you know, drop a couple, you know, tidbits for this defensive line room, I'm all for it. I'm definitely all for it. How about you, Brian?
Yeah, he's probably my, I'd say probably second favorite defensive tackle in this class, for the Packers at least, behind Ruke. it's kind of interesting the way I put it. Well, for me, the way I put it is he's similar size to his uncle Cullen, who played for the Packers. Everybody else played for the Packers. They're similar size, because he's just under 6'3", 300 pounds. That's about how much Cullen was when he came out. Cullen packed on a few pounds later on, but Cullen came out, he was about 305, something like that. So similar size to his uncle, but his play style is more reminiscent of his dad. So he's more of this, even though he's not a huge guy, he's this almost like this hulking big, run defender, even though he's not, big hulking guy like his dad was. But, that he's really good run defender, even though he's not, he's just barely under 200, 300 pounds. He's really good run defender. He stops the run. He gets off blocks. He can handle double teams. He can do all that stuff. He's still developing as a pass rusher, I think. He's got the upside and talent to be a good pass rusher. It's just he needs to develop that. He needs to spend a year or off season or what have you. Probably going with that D-line coach that Rashawn Gary works or something like that. But yeah, it's like I said. He's he's a really athletic dude. He had a 9 RS was 9. He ran a 4.91 40. So yeah, he has again, like you said, the Michigan bloodlines or whatever, his dad, and then Cullen, of course. So I think the talent is there, the upside's there. He could be really good in a couple of years, I think, if he just works at it. And of course, having his uncle and his dad there, coming by Green Bay or whatever, or working with him in the offseason obviously would help a lot. And I have him probably a early second round.
Early second. I'll live it. I can live with that. I can live with that. And you know what? I totally went over my head. Yes, Cullen Jenkins is Chris Jenkins' uncle, but like you said, he plays like his dad. Yeah. Cullen, his uncle, is more. Well, Cullen really is just. Cullen was more like of a Kenny back in his day. Cullen could just play, but he's not Cullen. He's not his uncle. Maybe he could become his uncle. I don't know. Maybe like you said, get with Rashawn. Maybe pick up his extra. Dog learns a couple new tricks, but definitely his dad. Definitely his dad. I could live with him in the second round. I'd probably be more comfortable in the mid-third, given that's what's probably going to be on the board. But again, like I'm gonna, you're gonna hear this from me for the rest of the time we're marching to the draft. The term overdrafted, as far as prototypical NFL size, Chris Jenkins is one of your dudes. It wouldn't surprise me if he's the second defensive tackle taken, just because after Ruke, he's in the zip code of athleticism, and he has the size. So the other people, it's pick your poison or eye of the beholder. I could live with Chris in the second, preferably not with the Packers, but if he gets selected in the second, I'm cool with that. So back to our tweeners, we have the other half of Texas's defensive line combo, and that's Byron Murphy II. Byron, where T'Vondre Sweat has the size, Byron does not have the size. I have him at, I think, about 6 even. Decent size arm length, but again, moving up to the NFL level, T'Vondre probably handled everything when he was moving bulk, and then Byron just probably ate the leftovers. That is not going to be the same in the NFL. 6 foot even defensive tackles, life can be very hard, especially when you got the guys like the Packers, where the shortest offensive lineman is currently 6'4". So I don't know. I don't think the Packers are interested in Byron Murphy at all, just because of his length. And obviously he's got decent athleticism, but I just don't know if the strength is going to be there at the NFL level like it was in college. What about you, Brian?
Yeah, so he came in about 6'1.5" at the combine. So close. I think just under 300 pounds. Average arm length 32 3/8. So decent size, or average okay size, I guess. But, ran a 4.87, so he's fast, he's athletic, and again, he's another one of those 3-tech type guys that's going to penetrate the backfield, cause havoc. He's a decent run defender for his size. He could be better, of course. Most defensive linemen coming to the NFL can be better run defenders. But, for his size, he's a decent run defender. And, he's shown, obviously, improvement every year, which is always a good thing. And, and he had like 6 sacks this past year, so that's good. He's a little bit short, but his arm length is okay, especially for his height, for being just under 6'1", 32 inches is actually not bad. But he's going to be like a 3-tech, like I said. He's going to be another penetrating, getting the backfield type of guy. If he improves as a run defender, he could be a full-time starter. But probably as a rookie, he's coming in as a as a sub rusher type of situation. I'd say probably I could see him going 3rd round, maybe late 2nd round if someone falls in love with him.
I don't know. We analyze the Packers. I'm not tone deaf to the other teams. I just feel like at barely, we'll say barely. Let's say it's slightly under 6'1". I think he's off a lot of teams' boards. I just feel like he's a lot at that height. It's just not appetizing to my knowledge, or let's say to my professional expertise. At that size, I'm probably going to run at Byron, head on and see if he can hold up. And again, like you said, the Packers, the shortest offensive lineman is currently 6'4". There are similar teams like the Seahawks, like the Steelers. The Steelers in general just love to pound that's their identity. It's tough defense, pounding the rock, and then maybe some play action to get you your head spinning. I just don't know if there's an appetite for 6-foot defensive linemen, and obviously he will get drafted. I'm going to say the top of round 4. It just really depends on how this defensive line class, looks to the teams throughout the NFL. But we'll see. We'll see. I could see him going day 2, but I'd be more comfortable with him top of round 4. Moving on to our next, probably the ultimate tweener in this year's class, and that's Oregon's Brandon Dorlus. I'm going to go ahead and leak he might be a gem coming up. But Brandon did a lot of stuff for Oregon. I don't know if he's going to do that in the NFL. And just like we mentioned with Byron, there's going to be some teams turned off about Dorlus. Is he an edge? Yeah. Is he an interior lineman? Yeah. I have him as a sub-package defender. I don't even know what else to call Brandon other than a sub-package defender. Can he cover? I could give him in a shallow zone concept. Not necessarily hook to curl, but maybe like screen to flat. And I probably don't want him taking double teams. But maybe on if you got the right stunt in play, maybe he can beat your better offensive tackles, because he does have a little bit of burst to him. But I just don't know where Brandon fits in the NFL. In college, he was great. He has to do a lot of things at Oregon, but I just don't know what he's going to do in the NFL. Give me your analysis on him, Brian.
Yeah, he's kind of a tweener, like you said. He's kind of interesting story. Well, not enough to say story, but interesting player as far as what Oregon did with him. Early on, when he first went to Oregon, he was a little bit heavier, and they played him kind of more as a defensive tackle. He was in the, I believe, 290 range, something like that. And then he kept kind of continuing to drop weight, and they played him at edge, I believe the last 2 years. And the production was never great. They used him, again, like you said, they did move him around a lot and used him all over the place, but he played a lot of edge the last couple of years. But he had like just 2 sacks this year. Last year, or 2022, I should say, he had like, I think, 3 sacks or something like that. So he didn't have a lot of pass rush production, and he had pressures, but again, not a lot. This past season, I think he had like 20 pressures or 25 pressures, which is okay. but it's not like great. But yeah, I think he's more of a defense tackle. He doesn't seem athletic enough for me for a defensive end. And even when I look at his body, he kind of has a kind of a squatty kind of lower body. He's kind of got a thick build. He's got wide hips, big butt, that kind of thing, thick thighs. So I feel like he's probably more of a defensive tackle. You could probably throw him out defensive end, for some rundowns, short yardage downs, stuff like that. But I still think he's mostly defensive end. And I think you're going to probably ask him to pack on like 5-10 pounds, get play at like 290, 295. Because he's got good arm length, over 33-inch arms. He's like 6'3", and he tested okay. Like I said, but I just think in the end he's going to be a defensive tackle, probably in a 4-3. Because that's where you're going to want to see him kind of develop as a pass rusher. I think that's where he'll have more of an effect as a pass rusher. He just packs on some weight, gets some more bulk in there, so he can kind of use some speed to power and things like that, incorporate that in his game. I think he's probably an early day 3 guy.
Early day 3. Probably if I had to play him immediately, probably a special teams ace, because he can get down the field. That may be the way he edges out of life in the NFL, some special teams. Because his build is a little wonky. I want he's a guy I want to see successfully in the NFL. He's a team guy. Whatever Oregon asked him to do, he did it. Those are the guys you love. Like, hey, just go out here and do that, whatever that is. With a creative football coach is going to have to find out what that is. I think his career could be like, he might bounce from one team to another team to another team. And maybe on that third team, after coaches have looked at film from like, okay, this worked, that didn't work. This worked, that didn't work. And then he just finds his niche on that third team, where he's just, he gets maybe 2 to 5 sacks a year. And, he etches out a notable career that way. Like I said, I'm rooting for him. I want to see what creative defensive coordinators find for him. I'll definitely be seeing where he ends up moving forward. So the next guy does not have the tweener label. And if I had to say, this is probably where the Packers might be interested, this is it. And that is LSU's Mason Smith. Mason has the length. I've got him at about just a hair under 6'5", but 35-inch arms. I don't think there's a single prospect in this class at this position that has arms that long. Had a little bit of injury history at Mason had at LSU. He's really raw. But if you wanted a guy you could stash and maybe get him around some guys that know a little bit more, Mason's probably the guy you want. I've got a priority with that length. He's going to be a priority day 3 dude. If the Packers were interested, I don't know. Again, we've got plenty of 3 techs. Mason, I probably want at 4 or 5. It really just depends on what Coach Haft and Brian have hashed out moving forward. But this is probably the first realistic prospect I see that the Packers may pull their trigger on for like a developmental prospect down the road. I'll let you take it from here, Brian.
Yeah. So I kind of agree. He's probably an early day. To me, he's probably like an early day 3 guy. But, he's another guy that's kind of it seems like all these guys in this class, but another one of the guys is kind of an interesting story. He was a former 5-star recruit, big name recruit, went to LSU as came in as a freshman. I believe he started the whole season as a freshman. And he really had showed some flashes as a freshman. I think he had like 4, I'm looking at it really quick here. He had 4 sacks as a true freshman at LSU, that's pretty impressive. But then game 1 of 2022, he tears his ACL, misses the rest of the season. And he came back in this past season and it just didn't seem like he was 100% there. It seemed you could still see the flashes of athleticism, of course. He made a few plays and stuff like that here and there, but He wasn't obviously a player. He was a freshman, so it just seemed like he was just a little like still working his way back from the knee injury. Because from all things we've heard, that the tear was fine. It wasn't like some bad tear or anything like that. The surgery went good. The healing was good. Everything like that. He just wasn't there 100%. But he didn't play as well. But he shows flashes, like I said. He's a big dude. Actually, he was 6'5" at the combine. Again, like you said, those 34-inch or 35-inch arms. And he showed flashes like as a pass rusher, like I said. So, he could be a developmental pass rusher there. And he's a good run defender. He's a big, strong guy. He's got the huge arms, like we said. Athletic freak. I mean, and it's even more impressive was his agility drills. He had a 7.62 3-cone. That's pretty good for a guy that's as big as him. 6'5", 305. So, and he's played heavier, so he probably dropped weight. So he might even play heavier in the NFL. He probably play 310, something like that, maybe 315. So yeah, he's like a what do you call it? A lottery pick, type of thing. You can say you can grab him and just let him develop as a rookie. Probably come in and just be a backup as a rookie, play maybe 10 snaps a game, something like that. And just see if you can develop him, see if you can get him back to his old self as he was as a freshman. Make sure, his knee is good, all that type of stuff. So yeah, I like him. It's just he needs development, and you want to see him kind of get back to healthy and how he was as a freshman.
Yeah, the medical is probably, like you hit it on the head. The medical is probably the key thing here. He may be ready to go now. And then, you get this guy on the field, you're like, oh my God, like I got a day 2 guy, a second round grade guy, who just played hurt all last year. And now he falls to me maybe in the back of the 4th, maybe early 5th. He's a high risk. I wouldn't even call him a high risk. He's like a mid risk, high reward kind of guy. The length is there,
I think he's got a decent floor, or at least you're going to get at least a decent run stuffer out of him at the very least.
Yeah, and if you're a Packers fan, if he's just a decent run defender, I'm sold off of that. We got enough pass rushers. If he can just be first down, second down, stretch that play out wide so guys can clean it up, I'm there. Like I said, if there was a guy the Packers took that I wanted them to take, it's probably Mason. 4th, 5th round. It just depends on the medical. Some teams are going to be out. Some teams automatically ACL tear, MCL tear, PCL. They're already gone. They're like, nope, no, thank you. We saw with Luke Musgrave last year, which blew my mind. Packers were willing to take a guy with some ACL knee issues type thing. Brian Lee, it depends on not only the like you said, Brian, the type of tear, how bad was the tear, and it also depends on who did the surgery. Did you go to Dr. Andrews or did you go to Southwestern Kentucky Medical Center? That's going to be where Mason falls, and I'd love to see what he looks like 2 to 3 years from now. All right, we've got Miami's Leonard Taylor. I think a lot of you guys were talking about Leonard early on. Taylor is probably the first player I would say that we've covered that he has a little bit of everything, or just he shows something, if that makes sense. Shows pass rush tools. I'm not going to call him a great run defender. I'm not going to call him a good run defender, but he can splash every so often in the run. He probably needs to just get stronger. And that's nothing new for, college athletes. You depend on like that natural strength that you developed over your playing career in high school. You get just a tad bit stronger in the weight room in college, and you're still just ahead of the game. But in the NFL, there's going to be guys that are just country boy strong, and then they got even stronger before they got to the league. And I think that's where Taylor is probably going to have to just improve, get a little bit stronger, be able to handle double teams. He's done okay with double teams, but double teams give him trouble. But honestly, you just add some strength, like basically take a Madden reference. You take his strength at 70 and you turn it into maybe like an 82, and you got something there. What about you, Brian?
Yeah, somewhat. Well, not really somewhat, but I should say, but somewhat similar as far as coming in to college as Mason Smith. He was another big time recruit, 5-star guy. Came in and showed flashes as a freshman. A bit up and down, but showed flashes, right? And then was a backup, and then came in a starter in 2022, and he played pretty well against the run and the pass. He had 4 sacks. It looked like there was some potential there that he was going to, have maybe a big 2023 season. And then he kind of was just this past season. He showed some pass rush again, but still wasn't great. Only had like 1 sack, didn't have a lot of pressures, had an okay number of pressures, but not a lot of sacks. And then worked out okay. He's just kind of like how do I put it? He's kind of solid all around. He's got just under 34-inch arms, so he's got good arm length. Okay athleticism. I think he was just one of those guys coming to high school that he was just kind of already one of those high floor type guys, one of the guys that was already ready to play, but didn't have a super high ceiling. But his testing wasn't great. He had a 7.34 RAS score, which is not great. His agility testing wasn't very good. There's still some technical issues he has that needs to work out with using his arms better and his hand usage and stuff like that. But I think there's still some upside there. It's probably not great. It's probably not gonna be a Pro Bowl or anything like that. But I think there's at least upside for him to be at least an okay starter who can be, okay defending the run and okay rushing the passer. But yeah, he'd probably be like your what's the word I'm looking for? He'd be like your defensive tackle number 2, not your defensive tackle number 1. If he's your defensive tackle number 1, you're kind of like in trouble. But if he's your number 2 or even number 3 defensive tackle, you're really set if he's your third defensive tackle. But I think like day 3, probably like 5th round or something like that.
Yeah, I like him as 5th. Yeah, like day 1, he's probably your 3rd defensive tackle, and then really just an NFL offseason away, and he's maybe your 2nd guy on the roster. As we said before, I think. Well, so far, we don't know what Gutekunst's threshold is, but he hasn't taken anybody under a 7.58. Maybe Leonard Taylor is the new benchmark, and maybe he's interested again. Like I said, I think we're probably looking more for a 0. Taylor's definitely a 3 guy. So it's pick your poison, eye of the beholder type thing. I'd be interested again because he's got tools. He just needs the physical. We can coach strength. I mean, we just got a whole new damn near athletic team. So I'd be interested to see what they can do with a raw prospect in terms of strength and conditioning. All right, so our next dude is Bama's Justin Eboigbe. Not the tweener type. I got him at maybe about 6'4" even, almost 34-inch arms. He's a run defender, so Packers fans get excited about that. And just needs the pass rush tools. Didn't get a whole lot of run at Alabama, to be honest. Got outshined by a lot of other people, but in the Nick Saban era, that's nothing new. You see Alabama defenders that are just buried. They don't get the development that they need. And then if you just get them in an NFL, locker room, they start to blossom and etch out roles in the NFL. And I think that's where Justin is. I don't really say there are holes in his game, if that makes sense. It's just, he just needs more work. He just needs more toolage, more coaching. And when you're signing 5-star blue chip defensive linemen, edge rushers, you name it on the defensive side for Nick Saban, he can only talk to so many players at once, and even his coaching staff, which I'm sure was one of the best rivals, probably some of the NFL staffs. Guys are gonna slip through the cracks as far as the type of attention that they need, and I think Justin he did the best he could given going to a powerhouse program. He might he might be a first round pick had he gone somewhere else where he was able to get more attention and play more right away. I don't know where I want to slot Justin. I don't know if I want to say he's late day 2, early day 3. It just depends on what people see in him. I don't think he tested that well, to be honest. So I think he's probably going to be stuck on day 3. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I liked him off his film. The thing is, Alabama, how do you say, the way they, I mean, their defense is effective, but it's, how do I put it? They use the defensive lineman not in a way that NFL would use them, I guess, is a way to put it. So defensive end this past season, and 6'4", just under 300. He was basically played out of position. He played like almost like as a defensive end. But he's going to move inside, of course, in the NFL. But yeah, he's got, he didn't test well. 5, 6, 8 RAS. So not great. But actually I like this film. He's got big arms, big musculature, upper body, strong arms. And you can see it on film. He's a really good run defender. Like he's got, like I said, long arms. You can play inside, you can play outside. Another type of guy that you can play defensive end on run downs and kick him inside on pass downs. He still some flashes actually this past season as a pass rusher. He had 7 sacks this past season. Some of them weren't just due to him. Some of them were just cleanup sacks, or another guy, like Turner or whatever, flushed the quarterback out, and he kind of cleaned up the sack type of stuff. But still, he shows some potential as a pass rusher. I think you probably still take him on day 3. I don't know if he'll ever be a full-time starter, but I think, again, kind of similar to Taylor, he's probably your number 3 defensive tackle. If you have a really good defensive line group, I think he's your number 3 defensive tackle. But again, a good run defender, could pass rush a little bit. Got that big muscular upper body, but just not a great athlete overall. But he's a guy I would take on my team. I don't know if the Packers would draft him, just because there's not a huge upside with him. But I would take him if I was a Packers. But yeah, probably 5th round, maybe 6th, I think is where I could see him going.
I can go with the 5th. A similar arc that might be for Justin is just Xavier McKinney. Tested horribly, but earned a high selection, and then just shows that I can do this in the NFL because the tape is there. The tape was there on McKinney when he came out of Bama as well. At the 5th round, maybe because of those testing, I might not be interested. But if he's still hanging around the 6th or 7th round, I mean, it's not hard to hate the tape. Although, like you said, when you have, dudes like Dallas Turner, when you have Kool-Aid and Terrion on the outside, a lot of the Bama players do. I mean, Nick Saban is a defensive back coach by trade. A lot of times, if you look at it, it's not so much that these guys are dominating up the line. It's just the quarterbacks are holding the ball for like 6 seconds. And then, at some point, the rush is just going to get to you. But I love watching Justin, wash down the line and make plays. As a run defender, I can live with that. If he never turns into a dominant pass rusher at the NFL level, I can live with that. With his size and his functional strength. If he's hanging around 6th, 7th round, I'm all for pulling the trigger on him.
Yep.
Moving on, we have our first small school prospect, and that's Northern Iowa's Christian Boyd. I thought he was going to come out last year, and I guess he decided he'd go back to school. I think he would have went higher last year than he did this year. I know that sounds crazy in a class that's kind of wonky, but I liked him more last year. I think I had a solid day 2 grade on him last year, and now he kind of disappeared by the wayside for me this year. So I think I'm sticking him in the 5th round. What about you, Brian?
Yeah, he's a guy I kind of liked when I was watching his film. He's a huge dude, so probably not really the Packers type. Just under 6'3", almost 330. His arms are a little short, just under 32. So might not be a Packers type. But I liked his film. He's a big, strong wing defender type guy. He's shown some flashes as a pass rusher. I don't think he'll ever be like an elite pass rusher or top line pass rusher or anything like that. But like I said, he showed potential. The one thing is his pro day wasn't great. His testing wasn't great. It was kind of so I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if he'd be a Packer, but if he went like undrafted, maybe 7th round, maybe they take a shot at him. I just think his upside is somewhat limited. I think his floor is pretty decent, but I think the upside's not really there. But yeah, I think he can be solid rotational when defending defensive tackle.
Yeah, he fell hard. Like that, I was looking at like comp pick time last year, and then just sometimes more film is not in your favor. Sometimes less film, Keon Coleman for one. So I think he could. I don't know. I think he could possibly be a 0. Possibly. 0 shades down to 1. Maybe 1 is maybe where he might earn his living. So yeah, if he's undrafted, I think the Packers are all over him. Despite the testing, just to kind of give maybe TJ get him to sweat just a little bit. But I think he's probably going to land somewhere around the 6th or the 7th, and but there's not a whole lot of true nose tackles in this, if any, honestly, outside of Tavondre Sweat. So a team, the Packers don't need a 0. They don't have to take a 0, but maybe for a team that's like, I need somebody. Christian Boyd, he might find his way on a roster sooner than the 6th or the 7th. All right, we are almost out of here. We've got Duke's Dwayne Carter, another solid run dude, decent size, probably not quite a tweener. I think I got him at about 6'1", and I have him at 33 flat. Not a pass rusher by any means, but he is a guy who can handle the run. Another 3 technique, honestly, another 3 technique. He's I don't think he will. I mean, well, it's Duke for one. It's Duke, so temper your expectations. Duke, so he's probably leaning towards being undrafted. Because no sexy numbers, but he showed he can handle the run. Where do you see him landing, Brian? Brian, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, I was like, I froze for a second. What do you think for Carter, Brian?
Yeah, I actually like him a lot. He had his better 2022 than his 2023 season. But yeah, I got him at the combine. He was just under 6'2.5", 302 with 33 inch arms. But good athlete, at least explosiveness and going forward in his 40 time. His agility drills were pretty bad. That probably takes him off the Packers board. But still, a guy I like a lot. He had a big 2022, like I said, where he had like 8 sacks and a bunch of pressures. Just kind of didn't play that well this season. But I think he's another kind of 3-tech type of guy. I think with his size and his arm length and his strength, so that he can play other spots. I just wouldn't put him at 0 or 1. But if you want to put him at 4 or 2, maybe some 5-tech for certain packages or certain team type of thing. But yeah, I like him. I like his pass rush production. I think he's one of those guys that he had kind of a bit of a down year, so his stock went down a bit. But he's going to come in and he's going to be the player he was in 2022. It's kind of what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I think he just kind of had a down unlucky year this past season, and the defense on Duke wasn't that great, so he didn't have a lot of help. And so I think once he goes to the NFL team, he'll prove the player he is. That he's the player he was in 2022, not 2023.
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, Duke is Duke. You get what you get from Duke. And when you have a down year on a historically bad team, that can burn you. But there is something to work with there. I think he might pop if he gets to a team, well, he really just gets to an NFL team that has an adequate defensive line room. So he may have a future that's got a little bit more run than we might initially think. Next up, we have Jaden Crumedy out of Mississippi State. Another guy that you guys have kind of been buzzing about. I have him at 6'5" at 33-inch arms. I like Crumedy a lot. He's got a lot. I mean, going back to Taylor, going back to Chris Jenkins, he has everything he needs to be successful, but he's just not successful. It's weird. You look at him, you look at the tape, he shows that he can do it. He just doesn't do it very often. And for that, as much as I like Crumedy, he may be a priority undrafted free agent. With that size, with the strength he shows, again, he's got pass rush tools. He's got run stuffing tools. It just doesn't string together very often. So I think, again, the term overdrafted. Somebody might be like, you know what, like, I'll figure it out when he gets here. And maybe he pops off in the 5th round. But there's just a whole lot of blankness, for lack of better terms, on his tape. And for that, I'm out on the draft. But if at the end of the 7th round, I'm probably calling his agent like, hey, who else is interested? What if I kick in an extra 10,000? What if I add some incentives? And hey, if you get 2 sacks this season, maybe I'll give you, I'll kick you in a couple of nickels, like that's where I'm at on Jaden Crumedy. I think Brian's about to disagree. Go ahead.
A bit. Yeah. I mean, I get it. His production has been great. The Mississippi State defense is kind of weird. Weird in the sense that there's a bunch of NFL prospects on draft prospects. I mean, not, 1st round, 2nd round type guys, but still a bunch of guys who are like day 3, maybe even a guy we'll talk about when we get to the quarterbacks that I really like when we get to the corners. Probably higher on than most people, but there's Crumedy. He's got another guy Pickering on that defense line. So there's a bunch of guys in the defense, in the Watson, the linebacker. There's a bunch of guys, but just like the performance wasn't good. It's kind of weird. I'm not sure if it was. I'm guessing it's the coaching because the talent was there. I think it's just coaching. But even with that being said, he's just under 6'4", 301 with 33-inch arms. So decent size, good size. Ran a 4.97 40, so good 40 time. He's almost 24 because he's a 6-year guy. But they moved him around on the defensive line. He moved up and down the line. He's played all over the defensive line. So that's obviously a positive for him because you can use him all up and down the line. The more you can do when you're, a late – I think I have him as a late day 3 guy, so like probably 6th round, something like that. Maybe 5th if someone thinks the upside's there. But, when you're getting drafted at late, your versatility is very important. It helps. The more you can do, obviously, more chance you're getting on NFL roster, more chance someone drafts you. But I think he's a good run defender. He's flashed a little bit, kind of like you said, here and there as a pass rusher. I think he's probably never going to be a great pass rusher, but I think, if he can, again, get with a good D-line coach and work on his pass rush game, I think he could be an okay pass rusher. And I think, honestly, his upside is as he could be a starter if he just works on that pass rush a little bit and just tweaks just some tweaks here and there, just some minor improvements as it on his consistency, play a little more consistent, play a little bit better against the run. And again, like I said, improve his pass rush, his game, and develop some moves and stuff like that. I think he can be a starter in the NFL level. I don't think it doesn't have a huge upside or anything like that, but he could be a 2-3 sack type of season type of guy who gives you good run defense and can play up and down the line, which is obviously very valuable in the NFL because there's always a shortage of defensive linemen in the NFL.
High risk, high reward. I'll go with that. Yeah, I 6, 7. I'm leaning really towards 7, but again, like you said, the length, the showcased ability sometimes or sparingly to do special things. If I'm picking him up, he's a special teamer, and then he's gonna have to earn his way onto the field. But if not, Crumedy may be out of the league, or he may be in what do they call that league now? The UFL. Yeah, the UFL.
Whatever.
Yeah, he's a UFL. Do they have a Pro Bowl All-Star game? I don't know. He's gonna be all UFL in like 2 years if he doesn't pan out. All right. Last prospect on this interesting defensive line class, and that's Baylor's Gabe Hall. I don't like Gabe Hall. I'm gonna be honest. He's got 34.5-inch arms. He's 6'6". I think he's around 6'5" and like
some change.
Yeah, some change. 6'6", whatever. To take Brian's words, looks like Tarzan plays like Jane. To me, anyway. Again, overdrafted, really tall, really long arms. Somebody's going to be interested. I think he did decently on his testing, but I just didn't see enough in college for me to be intrigued. Again, like Crumedy, if he's hanging out, after the draft, I'm calling the agent, be like, hey, we're looking at bringing the guy in for camp. What are you asking for? That's where I'm at with Gabe Hall. I mean, Baylor's never really been known for great defense anyway. I'm trying to think of a prospect. I mean, offense, receiver, yeah. Tight end, yeah. And a couple of years ago, quarterback, yeah. But outside of what's his face, who's the safety? He's got they'll come to me later on. But yeah, Baylor's never been known for outstanding defense. That's why they have to score like 50 points to win. What about you, Brian? Do you see a future for Gabe Hall?
I mean, yeah, just because of his size, athleticism, he's going to get a chance in the NFL. He's going to probably play 3-4 years at least, just because of his size and again his potential with athleticism. He was 6'6" even in 291 at the combine, so kind of that tweener size a bit. I think he played defensive end and defensive tackle at times at Baylor, but I think obviously his future is inside. Similar to Darius Robinson, you probably ask him to pack on a few pounds, 295, 300 pounds, something like that. And you can play him at defensive end on rundowns and have him, on inside on pass downs and stuff like that. Yeah, good athlete. Crazy. He had a 7.6 3 cone, which is moving for a guy that tall and long and big. But yeah, the production and stuff like that has just never really been there with Hall. He's flashed, of course, and stuff like that, but he wasn't, he's had like 5 sacks and a couple years ago, and then 4 sacks, and then no sacks or whatever it was this past season. So, again, these guys show some flashes here and there, but it hasn't been much. It hasn't been consistent. Maybe it's the coaching down there at Baylor, but I don't know. But yeah, he's probably a late day 3 guy. I think someone takes a shot at him again, thinking they, basically you redshirt him for his rookie year and then develop him, see if you got something in year 2. Give him like maybe 5-10 snaps a game or whatever, and then just see what you got in year 2, see if you can develop. A lot of times those guys end up busting, but you never know. Again, it's a lottery ticket. He may develop or something like that. But yeah, like I said, the physical talent's there for him to be really good. It's just he just hasn't put it on film. Yeah, a lot of it's like technique and stuff like that, and he doesn't have a game plan when he's trying to rush the passer and stuff. So yeah, if he can develop, he can be something, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yep, I'm totally on board. Yep, a GM, a defense quarterback, like 6'6", okay, and he will probably be on 7 teams in 4 years because every preseason, he's gonna hop around, and then he'll get a little bit too older, and then like Crumedy, he might be all UFL in like 2032. Yeah, I'm off Gabe Hall personally, but Brian has hope for him. All right, that is going to wrap up this defensive line class. Sorry if we
went long.
rained on your parade. I don't think the Packers are interested in maybe but a handful, and that's if it's at the right price. Brian Gutekunst is not overpaying for this defensive line class. We have good guys. We've got some studs. We've got a new scheme where I think some guys are going to learn some new tricks. We're going to Kenny Clark is going to have some help this year. Not that he hasn't had help last year, but he's going to have even more help because he's going to have a defensive coordinator going to put him in a position to be the 70, 80, whatever $1 million defensive lineman that we know he is. If you're looking for a defensive lineman, guys, we've got them already in the locker room. So get yourself a Kenny Clark or a Devontae Wyatt jersey while you still can. We're going to wrap up, and we are going to go to the linebacking class next, which I know you guys are super excited about to talk about probably your two favorites and then probably some randoms that Brian is going to throw at me that I am probably super lukewarm on. But we're going to fly through those as well. So stay locked in. This is Packers Draft Room, and we'll see you next time.